Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Commentary. Today, we're going to talk about deconstructing Zionism. And this is a very sensitive and complicated topic. And I don't want to mislead anybody. I don't wish to, display my own bias. So I've got to be super careful right now in the words that I select and use in this episode. Let's start with deconstruction, because I'm going to make an episode about this in its entirety later on. But for now, deconstruction is the tool of the postmodern era. Postmodernists, you say, well, who's a postmodernist? I'm not a postmodernist. Yes, you are, because you live, just like me, in the postmodern era. Many, many years ago, an intellectual from Chicago wrote a brilliant essay in which he stated that every time we click on a link on the World Wide Web, we are performing an act of deconstruction. And he reasoned that because of this, liberals would eventually win the culture wars. And I'm not so sure about that, but I do like the way this man thinks about the internet, because the internet is the tool of the postmodern era, let's face it. And with the internet, and by clicking on links, you can deconstruct any maxim that exists in the modern era. And it's important that we do this because we must never forget that the modern era, the top-down, one-to-many modern era, was designed in many ways to allow propagandists to influence us without our even knowing about it. So it's important that we deconstruct the things that are of interest to us, because we want to get to the basic reasoning of why we are the way we are. Let me give you a very quick example of deconstruction from my own life. And this took place long before I ever heard the word. I lived on a T intersection in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My street intersected with a main street. So that intersection was one that I used every day because I had to be at work at 3:30 in the morning. And I lived very close by the TV station, but this required me to go to the end of my street and make a left turn, and there was a no left turn sign. So one morning, nobody within miles, and a cop saw me make that illegal left turn and gave me a ticket, which really infuriated me. And I have issues with the police because of their clinging to the rules of culture without any sense of exception. So I studied why that no left turn sign was put there in the first place. And here's what I discovered. Many years earlier, someone was coming up my street and made a left turn. And this street was a very busy street with a lot of shops, etc. And I should add that my street, as it ended, was facing directly into the setting sun. So at certain times in the late afternoon, the person sitting at that intersection was blinded by the sun. As it would happen, somebody made a left turn there and ran over a woman and her baby in a baby carriage, killed them both. The city's response was to slap a no left turn sign there. So I went to the Traffic Safety Commission and presented them with a proposal that they change it from no left turn to no left turn 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They thought about it and they changed it and put up a sign that said no left turn 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So what I had done was to deconstruct the creation of that sign and find out how it actually began, and then go reason with the people who made the law in the first place. That is textbook deconstruction. So today we're going to deconstruct one of the most controversial issues in our world today, and that is Zionism. How did Israel get where it is, and why? So for this, we must go back, and I've looked at Google's Ngram for the word Zionism and for the word anti-Semitism, and they both originate in the late 19th century with very little acknowledgement until the Balfour Declaration, which again goes back to World War I and trying to draw the United States into World War I. This is what Europe was trying to do. The Balfour Declaration proposed the idea of a Jewish homeland in the Holy Land and the establishment of the state of Israel. Well, why was this such a big deal? Well, the problem, and here's what most people don't know about the Holocaust and Hitler's final solution. Final solution to what? To what was known throughout Europe as the Jewish question and the Jewish problem. And here's how the states, if you will, of Europe saw this. Jewish people would not fully assimilate into the communities in which they lived. Think about it for a minute. They would wash their hands of local problems and issues in the name of protecting their Jewish identity. This did not sit well with the governments because you've got, in many cases, a lot of money that is just not made available locally and regionally, if you will, through the people who practice the Jewish faith. And this was known as the Jewish problem or the Jewish question. So Hitler's final solution was to the Jewish problem, the Jewish question. It was obviously an extreme response, but that's what it was all about. So in 1917, when the Balfour Declaration was created, it was sufficient to draw wealthy American Jews into helping on the war front. And this was a very, very big deal for European Jews, and justifiably so. Look what was coming. So that's how Zionism was born. The word, the concept, everything. And it must be seen as a political movement. Israel isn't about the Jewish faith. It's a political organization. That's what Zionism is. And not all Jews who live in Israel are Zionists, but many are, especially their extreme right-wing government that we see today. So, this is what compelled Westerners to propose the idea of a Jewish state. Seemed to them that would solve the problem of the Jewish question or the Jewish problem by giving Jews their own homeland. Well, guess what? Yes, there are a lot of Jews in Israel, but they're still scattered throughout the world and still not functioning fully within the communities in which they live. So Zionism is a political movement, and it's what justifies in the minds of the rulers of the government of Israel. It's what empowers them to feel that they can do whatever they want. John Milton wrote in the 17th century, license they mean when they cry liberty. And that's what you're having take place in the Middle East today. The Zionists want license, or feel they have license, to do anything they want and call it liberty. And we, as Americans especially, since America funds the Zionism, we're joined at the hip. We could no more abandon Israel than we would abandon ourselves. My goodness. We are Israel. We are Zionism. And we have supported it without question for years. Millions, billions of dollars I have paid for the rampant killing of the Arabs that live or used to live within what was known as Palestine. And I know there are people going to say, well, Terry, but you know that wasn't an organized state. Well, they were just people. Well, but the Balfour Declaration, if we go back to that, promised that the state of Israel would take care of the current residents, members of the Ottoman Empire, the Arabs who lived throughout Palestine. So you can see the problem. You have a state that feels it has the right to do whatever it wants in the name of protecting Jews around the world. What? I thought this was a state for Jewish people, so that they could live free of the problems incumbent with the Jewish question. And it's all very, very messy today. And, the only way we're going to truly fix the problem of this rampant murder of Palestinian citizens is if we go back and rethink our support of Zionism. Here's another thing about the United States that you must remember. 1948, when Israel was established, is seen as a fulfillment of Christian prophecy. Here's the deal. Christians think that Jesus is coming back soon. Why? Because Israel was reformed in 1948, and they view this as prophetic, the accomplishment of prophecy, and that Jesus is going to come back soon. That's because 1948 is a key date among evangelicals in the pronouncement that Jesus' return is imminent. And so that fires up all of the Christians who say, yay! And those Christians are willingly participating in this genocide that has been ongoing in Israel ever since 1948. But we sit back and don't do anything about it because we think our Lord is coming back soon. So that's a real problem for the United States. Moreover, Jesus' return is going to be to the temple in Jerusalem. That's what they say. That's what prophecy says. Therefore, Jerusalem is the key to Israel, not any place else. And what sits in Jerusalem? The Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is one of the top 3 holy places among all of Islam. This is global. This mosque is sacred to Islam. And what's going to happen is that Israel is going to destroy that mosque and build a new Temple of Solomon. When that happens, these Christians will say, well, Jesus' return is imminent. But here's the key thing you must think about. Are we then willing to go against the wishes of Zionism in the name of protecting human life? Or are we going to participate in this genocide with our tax money and whatever, because we think we are helping usher in the return of Jesus. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is nonsense. You know, you talk about propaganda and how propaganda has worked against us, you know, throughout the modern era. The top-down, one-to-many modern era is it's a wellspring of propaganda, because, you know, the top has been able to influence us for all these years. But now we have links. We can deconstruct all of those things, and we should. And America needs to deconstruct its position with Israel to discover that all we are doing is aiding in the quest for license that the Zionist rulers of Israel want. You know, who knows how it's going to end? I certainly don't. I'm merely trying to add to the discussion. And of course, I could always be wrong because I'm just the commentary.